We got married after I had been stationed overseas and wrote Marie a letter asking her to marry me. We were both influenced by our church's culture, which emphasized marriage and having children. From the start, her mother wasn't fond of me. She was polite in public, but made it clear she thought her daughter deserved better. However, Marie believed I was the only one who would propose, so she accepted. The day before the wedding, her mother and I found ourselves alone in the house. She said, "You know, I don't really like the idea of Marie marrying you. I don't think you'll be a good partner." I replied that I would be a good partner, asking if she was sure her daughter would be a good spouse. Her mother assured me that she had raised Marie well and that she would be a good spouse, but she would be observing to see how good a partner I was. I told her she was welcome to watch. The wedding wasn't large. Most of my friends from before I joined the military had moved away, and we had lost touch. Marie wasn't the most popular girl in town. She was quiet, shy, and tended to blend in rather than stand out. 3 days after the wedding, we were relocated to my new duty station 1,000 miles away from her mother. Marie and I thought things were going well. I was promoted 3 times in the next 4 years, and we moved to another duty station, an island in the Pacific, where we started a family. During leave, we visited home. Her parents, brother, and sister lived 5 miles from my family. Each visit home put a strain on our relationship, especially when Marie spent time with her mother. She felt I wasn't a good enough partner. Her mother pointed out things she believed I should have been providing but wasn't. I was making the military a career, which meant moving every 3 years. Her mother frequently compared us to her brother's family, noting their stable home and criticizing our government housing. When I was sent to Vietnam, Marie and her 2 young children were invited to live with her mother, but instead, I arranged an apartment near our parents and flew to Vietnam for a year. With 78 days left, I was injured, leading to an early return. I spent 3 days in a hospital in Saigon, a week in Hawaii, and then returned to the mainland for further rehab. During this time, Marie's mother continued to criticize my military career and advised Marie to persuade me to find a civilian job. Upon my return, I faced the conversation and pressure. Marie had supported my military career when we married, but after 2 months of rehab, I was cleared for duty again and stationed at a base less than 3 hours from home. Marie seemed happier, and the pressure lessened slightly. In late 1969, I was sent back to Vietnam for a classified mission. Marie was worried but consoled by the fact that it would be a short trip. That mission ended my military career. I was injured again, resulting in a medical retirement. What was supposed to be a 1-month trip turned into 4 months in the hospital, 3 surgeries, and months of physical therapy. The scars were distressing, and Marie cried every time she saw them. After returning, we moved into a rental house 4 miles from our parents' homes, and I started looking for work. A church friend helped me find a job that was interesting, challenging, and well-paying. I hoped this would finally make Marie's mother happy. However, she continued to express dissatisfaction with me. I got to know Marie's brother and his family better, and eventually asked him if their mother was difficult with him as well. He admitted that she had never liked me and had even plotted to get Marie out of the marriage. She had said that Marie would be better off as a single mother than being married to me, and she repeated it several times. Marie's sister's husband, Aaron, and I became better friends as well. He didn't understand why their mother disliked me but was aware of it and was relieved it wasn't directed at him. When we were at events like ball games or picnics, just our kids and the 2 of us, we would joke about the situation a bit. Everything came to a head the year our son Adam graduated from high school. After his graduation, he moved to college within a month. He was a good student and soccer player, which earned him a scholarship. 4 months after he left, Marie told me she wanted a divorce. The church doctrine clearly stated that divorce was not acceptable, marriage was meant to endure, and couples were expected to work through their issues. I asked Marie why she wanted a divorce. She agreed that I was a good partner and a good father, but she said she was tired of being a wife and no longer loved me. I suggested counseling or therapy as a solution, but she declined. Marie and her daughter stayed in the house while I moved into a small apartment. Whenever I called the house, Marie's mother answered most of the time, and I was often told Marie and Christine weren't home. They didn't return my calls. I felt isolated from my family. I would park down the street from our old home and call. On several occasions, they would leave the house and get into Marie's mother's car. I managed to see Christine briefly a few times a week and told her about these incidents, but she didn't believe me at first. Later, I showed her my phone bill, which included 28 calls to her home that lasted less than a minute each. Christine asked her mother about the calls, and her mother denied them, claiming she hadn't spoken to me in months. Christine then asked Marie if she ever spoke to me, and Mary said as long as the financial support was coming, she didn't need to talk to me. Christine and I maintained a relationship built on honesty and kept it hidden from Marie and her mother. I occasionally spoke with Adam while he was at school. He made the mistake of mentioning our conversations during Thanksgiving, which led to a strong reaction. He was instructed not to talk to me or mention my name again. When he returned to school, he changed his phone number, and my letters were returned undeliverable. I attended 2 of his soccer games, but he only thanked me for coming, with no further conversation about family, his life, or mine. I continued to attend his games, making sure he saw me, but I didn't approach him unless he wanted to. One day when Christine was 20, she called me and wanted me to meet the young man she had been dating seriously. I met them for dinner at a restaurant, and I liked him. It was clear he was in love with Christine and that they were planning marriage. I asked many fatherly questions, and he provided excellent answers. At the end of the dinner, I suggested they keep our meeting private for Marie and her mother, as I didn't think they would approve. Christine replied that they better get used to me being part of her life because she wanted me to walk her down the aisle. I was deeply touched by her request, and her fiancé said they were prepared to handle any opposition and that he would be there, tuxedo and all. They set a date and began planning their wedding. Christine soon realized how strong her grandmother's influence was over her mother. Marie would agree to plans when Christine discussed them, but after talking to her mother, everything would change. During a family dinner at Marie's mother's house, Christine and Matt surprised everyone with the news that I would walk her down the aisle. The room fell silent, and eventually, Marie's mother said if I was going to be at the wedding, she would not attend. Christine firmly stated that since it was her wedding, if she wanted me there, I would be. She expressed her disappointment but remained resolute, and she and Matt left the house. The next day, for the first time in 10 years, Marie called me at work. She didn't say hello or identify herself. She said, "I don't want you to come." I asked, "Who is this?" Knowing who it was, Marie replied, "It's Marie." I was taken aback. Marie, my ex-wife. This can't be. She hasn't made a phone call in 10 years. Who is this really? I asked. It's Marie. I make phone calls, just not to you, but this is important. If you come to the wedding, you'll ruin it. Ruin it by doing what the bride and groom asked me to do. How can that be? Your presence will prevent Mama from attending. Mama helped raise Christine and has been there for her throughout her life. You haven't. I don't want you there. Can you call me back after 4? I need time to consider your request, and I want you to call me back. 4 p.m. Yes, she said after a pause. I'll call you then. I called Christine and said, "Honey, I want you and Matt to take your mother out for dinner. I'll cover the cost. I want the 4 of us to talk. She shouldn't know I'll be there. This is important to me, and I believe, to both of you. How about we go to El Patio? Mom likes that restaurant. Tonight around 6:30. Yes, that works. It's best if Grandma doesn't know where you're going. Got it." At 4 p.m., the phone rang. I answered, and Mary said, "So, what's your decision?" "Hello," I replied. "My answer is that I'd like to meet with your bishop before agreeing not to attend the wedding. I always liked Alan before he became bishop, and I want his advice. Will you meet with me and Alan? No, this isn't something I want to be discussed throughout the church. This is a private matter. Don't you think someone will notice if the father of the bride isn't at her wedding? Won't that cause talk? And aren't bishops supposed to keep conversations confidential? Besides, are you afraid that Mama will react harshly? I won't meet with him. I don't want to see you either. I still want his advice, with or without you. I'm going to meet with him. If you decide you want to be there, let me know. In fact, call me 2 or 3 times when you're available, and I'll set up an appointment for one of those times. I won't call you back. I won't be calling you back. When can I give you my answer? Can't you give me your answer now? My answer right now is that I'll be there. I'll walk Christine down the aisle if that's what she wants. If you want me to take your request seriously, I need time and we'll need to talk again. Call me at home on Monday morning. No, call me here at work on Monday morning. I will, she said, and then hung up. I called Alan and we talked for almost an hour. He had known Marie and her mother for as long as I had. His advice was succinct. I look forward to seeing you at the wedding. When I walked into El Patio, I saw that Christine had made sure that Marie was seated facing away from the entrance. I walked to their table and sat next to Matt, across from Marie and Christine. What are you doing here? Marie asked. Paying for dinner. Isn't it okay for a father to buy dinner for his daughter, her fiancé, and his ex-wife? I want to go home. I've lost my appetite. Christine looked at her mother and said, Eat or don't eat, that's up to you. It's 8 p.m. and you didn't drive. We wanted to talk, and I thought this would be a nice way to do it, sharing a meal together while we talk. What is there to talk about? Matt asked. How about the wedding? At that moment, the waitress arrived, and we took a moment to order. It had been years since I had been to El Patio with Marie, but I remembered she always ordered the chicken tostada salad. She looked at the menu for a moment and ordered the chicken tostada salad. I ordered chicken enchiladas. When the waitress left, Matt repeated, How about the wedding? Did you tell Christine that you called me at work today? I asked. Yes, Christine said. I called to ask him not to come to the wedding. Isn't it my wedding? Christine asked. Yes, but you're making a mistake. Nick shouldn't be a part of it. He left you years ago and didn't raise you. Why wasn't a part of it? He left you years ago and didn't raise you. Grandma and I raised you. Why wasn't Dad part of that? He never came by or called. Oh, but he did. Mom, I've seen the phone records. There were hundreds of calls lasting less than a minute that I never received. Grandma said we weren't home and never gave me the messages. That's not true, Mary protested. I have photocopies of those phone records, I said, pulling them from my briefcase and handing them to Marie. Years of phone records. I also have photos of every birthday and Christmas present I sent to the house, all of which were returned. I bet you'd recognize the handwriting on the packages marked Return to Sender. It's your mother's handwriting. Marie took in the overwhelming evidence and handed the copies back to me. Our dinners arrived, and we ate in silence. Finally, Christine asked, Do you still want me to tell Daddy not to come to my wedding? Do you still think Grandma was so good to me that I should give up my father because of her selfish motives? She separated me from my father, and if it were possible, I would remove her from my life. I put my fork down and looked across at Marie. Okay, that is your mother. What are you willing to give up so that I get something in return for missing Christine's wedding? Give up. She looked at me as if she didn't understand. Yes, you want me to forego something significant, something that every father would want to be part of. What do I get in exchange? I don't know what I could offer you. I waited quietly. Matt spoke up. Does Nick still send you a check every month? Marie replied, Yes, our divorce agreement requires him to pay me alimony every month. Matt, clearly surprised, said, He's still paying. We never discussed that. Yes, he is. Would you be willing to change the court order and stop receiving alimony? I asked. I need that money, she replied. "So what are you willing to give up?" Matt asked. There was a long silence. The waitress arrived, and I handed her a credit card for the dinner. Marie turned to Christine and said, "Having Nick there will ruin the day for Mama and for me. He should understand that and stay away." "Your Mama can deal with it," Christine said firmly. "Now tell me what Nick would need to give you for you to stay home." "I wouldn't stay home. You're my daughter, and I want to be there when you get married. For 27 years, your mother has harbored resentment against me. To me, it feels like she deliberately ended our marriage, not my time in service or my injuries. It's come down to a choice. Either she'll attend Christine's wedding, or I will. I'm giving you the decision." "I'll tell you what I will accept," I continued. "I will stay away on the day of the wedding if you show me an amended court order stopping the alimony forever, and if you agree to spend a weekend with me." Marie responded loudly enough that people around us in El Patio looked over. "I can't do that." "Why not?" I pressed. "I've been paying you as if you were a service provider, with no actual service. Why not use your service now? Are you a virgin? I remember we've been close before. I'll make reservations at the Blue Lantern in Dana Point, and no one except us will ever know." Mac tried to stifle a smile. Christine, taken aback, looked at me rather than her mother. "I can't," Marie said, pausing. "What could I possibly tell my mother?" "Tell her the condition for me staying away is for you to forfeit alimony forever. You don't need to mention the Blue Lantern. And for your peace of mind, I haven't been with anyone in the last 3 months. I had a physical 2 months ago, and apart from some minor shoulder issues, I'm healthy." "Okay, I need to think about it," she said. "Matt, I think dinner is over. I'll know her decision when she calls to say no or I receive the court order in the mail with instructions on when to make reservations." I shook Matt's hand, hugged Christine, and kissed her goodbye. I waited a few seconds for Marie to decide her course of action. She remained seated, so I left. 10 days later, I received a letter from the court indicating that the spousal support order had been terminated along with a copy of the new court order. I confirmed with my attorney that the alimony was officially ended and could not be reinstated. 2 days later, my phone rang. Marie said, "I changed the court order." "Yes, thanks. I have my calendar open. Let's be clear, we will go to the Blue Lantern for a 2-day stay. During that time, I agree to be intimate with you once. You don't decide anything. I will decide what happens. We will have breakfast served in the room both mornings and go out for lunch and dinner at nice restaurants. Besides that, you'll be in the room with me, available for as much intimacy as I want." "I don't know if I can handle a lot of intimacy. I haven't been with anyone but you," Marie said. "I'll manage that," I replied. "Sometimes you are so difficult. Look around at church on Sunday. All those children were conceived by people having intimacy. God made it pleasurable for a reason. What if I can't do it? Then I'll rent a tuxedo. That's why we're going before the wedding." "Okay, the weekend of the 20th. I'll make the reservations today. You can tell Christine you've agreed." "Where shall I meet you?" "Send your mother out or something. I'll come to your front door on Friday afternoon, carry your suitcase to the car, and bring you back on Sunday while your mother is at church." "Okay," she agreed. Christine called me that evening. "Daddy, Mom told me she gave up the alimony." "Yes, and I have the court order framed and hanging in my bathroom." "Did she agree to the other condition as well?" "Yes, she picked the dates and everything. She doesn't want me at the wedding." "Sweetheart, I'm glad she gave up the alimony, but I want you at the wedding. I've been thinking about how important the ceremony is to you and Matt. Mike doesn't have any family nearby to attend the wedding. He moved here for college, and his family can't afford to come. It seems like Mom and Grandma are focused on the spectacle, worrying about things like color choices or flowers, or whether my dress is traditional white. Call Matt, please, and see if he would consider having a simple ceremony back in his hometown. No frills, just a loving event. If you're both up for it, I'll handle the tickets and arrangements. But I still want to be able to walk you down the aisle." "Oh, Daddy, that's a great idea. I'll call you back." Half an hour later, she called back. The wedding would still be on the same day as planned, but instead of Los Angeles, it would be in Vermont. The next day, Christine called me at work and asked, "Are you still going to take Mom to that place in Dana Point?" "Yes," I answered honestly. "I've always enjoyed being with your mother, and I've missed that. She's promised me 2 days of intimacy, and I've promised not to attend the wedding here in Leh." My phone rang at 9 o'clock the next morning. Caller ID showed Marie's number. I answered professionally. "Hello, this is Elaine. What are you up to?" "Excuse me, who is this, please?" "It's Elaine. You've cheated Marie out of her alimony, and I think there's more to it. Marie has been acting oddly the past few days. I checked the phone bill, and she's been calling you. Did you inquire about those calls?" "What good would that do? You have the phone records in front of you. Do you think maybe she paid me off to make you happy and a few phone calls were involved? It wouldn't take many for someone like me. Perhaps your daughter isn't as perceptive as you were regarding these matters. You called just to verify our conversation." "No, I want to make sure you are nowhere near the chapel on the 27th. First of all, you need to understand that you can't control me. You may have influence over your daughter, but that's where your control ends. Next time you contact me, try to show some respect. Just to please you a bit, I have a plane ticket out of Lax on the 25th and returning on the 30th. I'll be over 1,000 miles away. You can come to Lax and watch me leave if that will make you happy. Do you realize how mean and controlling you're trying to be? Your opinion doesn't carry much weight around here, and you've made sure of that. Well, I need to get back to work. Enjoy the wedding. Will you be walking Christine down the aisle?" "No, her Uncle Bill will be doing that. Goodbye." I hung up. 30 seconds later, the phone rang again. Caller ID showed her number. I let it go to voicemail. My suitcase was in my car. Marie called and mentioned her mother was at a church meeting and wouldn't be back until 5:30. I arrived at her house at 4:30. Marie greeted me with a small suitcase and looked great in a dress with a floral print made of silk. She wore 2-inch heels, stockings, and had her hair and nails done. I complimented her, helped her into the car, and we drove away. I could have driven past the church to get to the freeway, but chose a different route. Marie didn't speak until we were on the freeway, seeming to relax as we moved further from her home. "So, what should we talk about?" she asked. "Tell me about what you enjoy doing now. My memories are old, and your preferences might have changed." "I still enjoy movies. I mostly watch them on cable, but occasionally we go to a theater." During most of the drive to Dana Point, we talked about movies we'd seen and food. I remember that in the past, I liked to rest my hand on her thigh as I drove. If I simply touched her leg, she would startle in surprise. "Marie, don't jump. I'm just placing my hand on your leg. I didn't ask for permission when we were married, and it felt natural." She looked at my hand, but didn't say anything. I mentioned there were some CDs in the glove box, and she selected one and put it into the stereo. After a couple of songs, her hand rested on top of mine on her leg. We arrived at the Blue Lantern Inn, a beautiful building perched on a bluff overlooking Dana Point Harbor and the ocean. I had booked a top-floor room with a balcony. After checking us in and carrying both bags, Marie seemed a bit embarrassed as she observed the room, which was stunning. I had stayed in the same room a few years prior with someone I thought might become Mrs. Nick, but that relationship was just a pleasant memory now. At the Blue Lantern, I put the suitcases on the racks and unpacked. I hung her clothes in the closet and mine next to them. When I turned around, Marie was standing by the bed, her hands at the top buttons of her dress, looking at the bed. I approached her and wrapped her gently in my arms. "Relax. We need to go have dinner. Will you be warm enough if we sit outside to eat?" She had brought a sweater. We dined at a wonderful seafood restaurant right by the water, watching the sunset and seabirds flying off to their evening destinations. After dinner, we walked back to the inn, holding hands. Marie was quiet for a while. As we approached the car, she asked, Why are you being so nice to me? In 1965, I told you I loved you. I'm pretty sure I mention it regularly, even until we divorced. Just because you haven't heard me say it recently doesn't mean I stopped feeling it. I've been harsh, convincing myself you were influenced by your mother, who's disliked me since 1964. I want these 2 days to be enjoyable for both of us. They might be the last intimate moments I share with someone I care about. I want them to be special. I feel like I'm just a transaction. You've made a deal with me, Matt, and Christine. The deal was for me to have 2 days of intimacy. It feels like I'm being used. But you have no idea what it's like to be in my position. A person in my situation doesn't have the luxury of privacy. They open up to strangers and endure touch and attention without genuine regard. We rode up in the elevator with another couple, about our age. They were affectionate and kissed as the elevator rose. When the doors opened on the second floor, Marie said, "I guess I'm in a hurry." We smiled and wished them a good night. At our door, I stopped and took Marie in my arms, pressing her against my chest. I felt her hesitation, and I softly said, "When we go inside, take everything off. Start the shower, and I'll join you." I opened the door, and we went inside. Marie took her time undressing while I watched. She entered the bathroom, and I followed her. She faced the shower as I approached and said, "If you prefer, I can leave my t-shirt on so you don't have to see my scars." "Thank you," she replied. She stepped under the stream of water, and I joined her. We showered together, and she was a bit reserved. After we dried off, I kissed her again, and this time she responded with soft lips and her hands on my arms. After a while, we spent time together. When we finished, she cuddled up next to me and fell asleep. I kissed her forehead and went back to sleep. At 9 o'clock in the morning, I heard a knock at the door. I threw on a robe and opened it to find a woman delivering our breakfast. Marie hid under the covers as the woman set the breakfast on the table on our balcony and left. One of the perks of this room was the privacy of the balcony. "Get up and come have breakfast," I said. "If it bothers you, I can wear a t-shirt, but I want to see you. It doesn't seem right. I'm willing to experience whatever it feels like, and have you do it anyway. You've always been more comfortable being naked than I am. I think that's because your mom is very private about her body. How would you know about mom's views on her body? Your dad and I were friends when we weren't with Elaine. He once shared that after 30 years of marriage, he'd never seen her naked. I've never known anyone else married that long and never seen their spouse in such a way. He said she changed clothes in the closet, and they never showered together. She's very modest. Modesty isn't about hiding from others. It's about wearing clothes that don't reveal too much. Have you ever seen your mom kiss your dad more than just a peck? Your dad said he never got a real kiss from her. I'm grateful you're not that restrained." I led her to the balcony. She checked to ensure no one could see us. The sun was warm and the breeze felt pleasant. We started eating and found the French toast, sausage, hash browns, and jutes to be perfect. As she ate, she forgot about being naked. I enjoyed the view. After breakfast, Marie asked, "What's next?" "More intimacy. You might think I'm obsessed, but consider this. I haven't been with anyone in a long time. Our arrangement is just for this weekend. I may not get another chance with you. If you knew you might never have ice cream again, how much would you want before Sunday afternoon? Feel free to invite someone else if that's what you want. I'm not the only person in the world. You can invite the person you were with last time if that's what you prefer." I wanted the experience with her to match what I had with you, but it didn't. "Now, come inside." We went back inside, and I put on some music. I danced with Marie in the small space between the bed and the fireplace. She relaxed, and soon we were kissing as we danced. Things progressed, and we found ourselves back in bed. I took my time, savoring the moment. It was about reconnecting with Marie, not just physical intimacy. We napped before heading out for dinner. As it got dark, we showered again and dressed. While walking to the car, I asked her what she wanted for dinner. "Protein," "It's an energetic weekend," she replied. We dined at a marina restaurant at the bottom of the bluff below the inn. We laughed and talked, feeling like we had never been apart. After dinner, she wanted to walk, so we did, hand in hand at first, then with my arm around her and hers around me. She began to share her thoughts and memories. "I think the happiest I ever saw my mom was the day you moved out. I cried almost all day, and she seemed to take over my house as if it were hers. Sometimes she'd come home from work and act like she had a big secret, but I never knew what it was until I saw the phone records. When Adam told me he'd seen you at a soccer game, Mom said she stopped sending him money if he kept seeing you. I didn't find out until last year when Dad passed away. I thought she would grieve for a long time, but 2 months later, she said, I barely miss him at all. He doesn't pester me anymore. I was missing you every day and night, and it had been over 2 years. How could she say that about my dad?" I kept us walking, knowing the processing was good for her. Eventually, we headed back to the car, and she said, "Can we go back to our room? I'd like to cuddle with you in bed." Back in our room, the bed was freshly made, and a plate with 2 large chocolate chip cookies sat on it. I started a fire in the fireplace, and we undressed. We sat on the bed, with me leaning against the headboard, and Marie leaning against me as we ate our cookies and watched the fire. After the cookies were gone, Marie said softly, "Nick, I'm sorry. I've been wrong in many ways, believing that I didn't love you when Mom said I didn't, not including you in the lives of Adam and Christine. Before I can say I forgive you, I need to ask, what are you going to do about it?" She turned to face me and kissed me. When the kiss ended, she said, "I want you to walk Christine down the aisle. I want you to give up your apartment and move back home. I want to marry you again." "Are you sure about all that? Are you sure it's not just about wanting to be at the beach occasionally?" I asked with a smile. "I'm sure. One reason I hesitated about this weekend was knowing I still love you. I knew when you held me, I would melt. I'm afraid of what might come from this decision, but having you back will be worth it." "Where does she think you are?" I left her a note saying I needed to get away and think things through. "She probably thinks I'm with Bruce and Lissy at Big Bear Lake. When I'd needed to think in the past, that's where I went. But she knows that's not where I am now." I realized that while we were driving down here, my car was in the garage at home. She knows I'm not alone. I need to talk with Matt, Christine, and Adam too. My brother Bill thinks he's walking Christine down the aisle. I'll be on the phone for days. "Stop. Our weekend isn't over. I want to pretend that our world is on hold until tomorrow afternoon. Right now, it's just Nick and Marie. The rest will work out tomorrow." We got under the covers and held each other as we fell asleep. During the night, we woke up and joined together again. It was passionate and intense. At 9 o'clock, there was a knock at the door. I put on a robe and answered it, letting the woman delivering our breakfast in. Marie stayed under the covers until she left. She got up, brushed her hair, and joined me on the balcony. We ate breakfast and watched the marina below. When she was ready, Marie asked, "Can we spend time together one more time before we go out here or inside?" "Inside," I replied. "I'm not comfortable. Please." I followed her inside. We took our time, moving slowly as we enjoyed each other's company. Afterward, we showered again and got dressed for the drive home. "Do you prefer I wear a dress or shorts?" Marie asked. "I chose the dress," I answered. As she got dressed, I asked her to leave the underwear in the suitcase. She looked at me a bit puzzled, then smiled and put them back in the suitcase. We packed up and left the room. I paid the bill and we loaded the car. The woman at the front desk followed us to our car and gave us 2 more large chocolate chip cookies for the road. As we drove, I could tell Marie was mentally preparing to confront her mom when we got home. "You know, I've been thinking about what will happen when we get home," I said. "I know," Marie replied. "Mom is going to be really angry. Let's do a run-through. Pretend I'm your mom. You walk in and she says, 'Where have you been?' I went away to think. You didn't say where or when you'd be back. Marie continued in the role. I'm over 21, Mom. Do I still have to check in with you for permission? It's just common courtesy to let me know where you are and when you'll be back, Marie said. Do you always tell me where you're going and when you'll be back? I asked, still playing the role. Mostly, Marie responded. But now that I'm back, I'd like to talk to you about some decisions I've made. Decisions I've made, she said. The first one is that I want you to move your things back to your house. You've been acting like you live in both houses. You don't live here. I do, and I want my key back. If I do that, you'll be all alone, Marie said. That's my business, not yours. Can you be out by tomorrow night? No, I'll need help, and Bill works every day. I'll hire movers to pack your things and move them back to your house. Maybe the bishop can send a couple of men who need some service. What's the hurry? Someone else is moving in. I want them to move in as soon as possible so I won't be alone for more than a few hours. Who is moving in? I asked, still playing my role. Nick is coming back. Nick? We got rid of him once. I thought it was for good. Yes, you thought you got him out of our lives. I know about all the phone calls you never told me about. I know about all the presents you sent back. I know how you sabotaged any chance we had of patching things up back then. Lies. He filled your head with lies. He got the phone company to make fake phone records. He took pictures of fake packages with your handwriting on the boxes saying, "No such person at this address." No, Mom, you did that. I suppose you want him to walk Christine down the aisle too. Yes, I do. Then none of us will be there. Bill won't attend, nor will his family. Judy and her family won't be there. And I certainly won't be there. For all my life, you have manipulated me into doing whatever you wanted. Not this time. If no one is there except Christine, Matt, Nick, and me, it will be a wedding. I stayed quiet. I pulled over and parked. Marie, I want you to think about this. Matt's family can't come to the wedding. They can't afford it. They love him. How would it be if we flew to Vermont and had the wedding there? Oh, Nick, that solves the whole problem. Anyone who wants to attend can fly to Vermont and have the wedding there. Mama can stay here and be all righteous if she wants to. Do you think Christine will go along with it? I handed her my cell phone and hit speed dial for Christine's number. Christine, it's your mom. Can you sit down and talk to me, honey? Christine, it's your mom. Can you sit down and talk to me, honey? The whole family is about to be very angry with me and with you. Do you think Matt's family could arrange for a wedding in their town on short notice? Oh, honey, call Matt and have him call his family. Call me back on Nick's cell phone. Yes, we're back together. I said loudly enough for Christine to hear. I asked Christine if she could see if there could be a double wedding. I heard Christine's excited reaction through the phone before they hung up. We sat by the side of the road for a few minutes and my cell rang. Marie answered. They chatted excitedly for 10 minutes and promised to talk again in an hour when Matt and Christine were at the house. We drove to the house. I saw the curtain move as Elaine looked to see if Marie was home. She saw my car and me getting out to open the door for Marie. I grabbed her suitcase, and she suggested I bring mine in too so she could do my laundry and start moving me in. I followed her inside. Elaine was standing in the middle of the living room, her hands on her hips and her face red with anger. Why is he here? She almost yelled. This is your house, Mom, Marie said. Then I can have anyone I want here. If you want to talk, you'll need to wait. I need to start the laundry. Marie took both suitcases and went to the service porch. Elaine sat in a rocking chair, which she had moved to Marie's living room after I moved out. I sat on the couch. Marie came back and sat near me. While I was gone, I solved the wedding problem. We moved the wedding because there was too much anger and upset over it being either your way or not. Christine wants Nick to walk her down the aisle. You threatened to boycott the wedding if he's there. Well, the wedding is still on Saturday at 1, but not here. We're flying to Vermont, and they're getting married in Matt's hometown. His uncle, the bishop, will officiate. That way, the wedding won't have all the negative energy that would be here." "I won't be there," Elaine said. "I will let everyone we invited know about the change of venue. They can come to Vermont or not. Either way, we are having a wedding." "I won't be here when you get back," Elaine continued. Marie looked at her mother and said, "Can you be out by tomorrow afternoon?" "What? You have a house?" Elaine asked. "Can you take all your things and be out by tomorrow afternoon?" Marie repeated. "Are you throwing me out?" Elaine asked, feeling hurt. "In a kind way, yes," Marie replied. "We need the room for Nick to move back in. When he gets off work tomorrow, he can start bringing his stuff back. The question is, can you get your things out by then?" "But you aren't married anymore," Elaine said. "It isn't against the law for us to live together for a week," Marie replied. "What do you mean, for a week?" Elaine asked. "Right after Christine and Matt get married on Saturday, the bishop is marrying us." "This is just wrong," Elaine said. "I agree, it has been wrong, and for that, I apologize," Marie said. "I wanted to believe that my mother would always act in my best interest. I believe that your love for me would motivate you to always be looking out for me. When you told me I didn't love Nick, I believed you. When you hid his attempts to stay in touch, I believed you. When you said he hadn't called, I was wrong, and I have apologized." Tears ran down Marie's face as she spoke. Elaine sat in a rocking chair, looking like she had been slapped. "I have always loved you," Elaine said. "Everything I have ever done has been for your benefit. You decided before we were ever married that you didn't like Nick," Marie continued. "Nick knew it. Everyone in the family knew it. How is that being supportive? How does that helping my life work? He's never been good enough for you, and he still isn't. The church says I should be married, have children, raise them to be good adults, and stand by my partner. My mother says I should only marry a man she picks, only have children with him, and stand by him." "Did you let your mother pick your husband?" Marie asked. My mother approved of Kurt. She liked him. She thought we should wait until he got out of the army before we got married, but she liked him." "Did you love him?" "Of course, I loved him," Elaine answered. "Really? Well, while I was away this weekend, I thought a lot about what I saw of you and Dad. I never saw you hold hands with him. I never saw you kiss him. I saw you peck him on the cheek a few times, but I never saw a kiss between you. I saw you tell him what to buy you for Christmas, and then complain he got the wrong thing even though he got exactly what you asked for. How did you show him you loved him? What example did you set for Bill, Judy, and me for how to show a spouse love? I took good care of him. I cooked, cleaned, and raised his children. I'm not good at being outwardly affectionate," Elaine said. "I loved him. You told me that Nick was too open with his affection. You made me feel like Nick was doing something wrong when he kissed me in front of the kids. You told me I shouldn't enjoy closeness with him. You said it wasn't for enjoyment, it was for making babies. Well, you were wrong, Mother. It is one way Nick and I show affection. It helps bond us together. One of the reasons I want you to move out is so Nick and I can have more privacy. I want to walk around the house freely because Nick likes seeing me like that. I don't want to worry about whether you're listening." "I don't want to hear this," Elaine said. "He has influenced your thinking," Marie said. "If it's too big a job for you, we can call the bishop, and he'll send a few men from the congregation to help pack your things and move them to your house. I don't want you to stay here tonight. I want Nick to stay here tonight, and every night from now on. If you do this, you will lose your mother," Elaine said. "Remember in the Bible where it talks about when you get married, you leave your parents and cleave to your spouse. That's what I'm doing. If you want to be in our lives, you need to be supportive, loving, and allow us to love each other as we see fit. If you can't do that, then we'll miss you. If I have to choose between being married to Nick or having you in my life, I choose Nick. You'll regret this. You shouldn't treat your mother like this. I brought you into this world, and now you're throwing me out." "No," You are choosing to leave. I want a loving, supportive mother. You say you can't be loving and supportive. Your choice. I choose to be Nick's wife. He is the father of my children. He loves me, and I love him. We are willing to love you and have you in our lives, but only if you can be loving and supportive. You wouldn't even support Christine's choices about her wedding, so she gets married almost 3,000 miles away from you. That is your doing. The washing machine dinged, signaling that the load was ready to be transferred to the dryer. Marie got up to handle the transfer. Elaine sat quietly for a few moments, then stood and picked up her purse. I'll have someone come to get my things tomorrow. Will you be here to show them what to take? Elaine asked. Mary knows what things are mine. I'm sure she does. However, your things are your responsibility. If you are involved, we eliminate the possibility of you not getting all your things and then blaming either Marie or me for anything missing. Please be here with whoever you send, and then you will be sure you get everything that's yours. Okay, I'll be here. I'll be off work at 5 and here by 6:30. I'm sure it does, Marie said. Marie returned to the room and saw her mother holding her purse and preparing to leave. What time will you be back in the morning? Marie asked. I'll call before we come for my things. I would guess we'll be there around 9 or 10, Elaine said. Marie went to the front door, opened it, and extended her arms to offer her mother a hug. I had never seen them hug before. Elaine walked past Marie's open arms and said, I don't hug. I know. I've wanted a hug from you since I was a little girl, Marie replied. Elaine walked out the door, and we watched her get into her car and drive away. Marie stood next to me, and I held her as we watched her mother drive away. We drove to my apartment, and I packed enough things for work the next day. We stopped at a store, bought some boxes for my things and some boxes for Elaine to use as she moved out of Marie's house. We went home, and for the first time in almost 10 years, Marie made dinner for us. We sat at the table, ate, did the dishes together, and talked. At around 8 or a little after, the phone rang. I felt the urge to answer it, but didn't. It couldn't be for me. Only 2 people knew I was back, and Elaine wouldn't be calling to talk to me. It was Adam. He had been called by Elaine and was angry. Marie talked to him for almost half an hour. For the first 15 minutes of that time, I sat on the couch while she sat in the chair by the front door. Then she moved and sat in my lap with my arms wrapped around her. Tears fell on my chest as Adam told her how wrong she was to love me. He recounted all the lies Elaine had told him over the years. At the end of the half hour, it was clear that he was invited to the wedding, that we were back together, and that we loved each other. Marie was sure he wasn't coming to the wedding, and said he wasn't coming home for a visit as long as I was living in the house. A little after 9, the phone rang again. It was Marie's brother, Bill. She was still in my lap from the call with Adam. I heard Bill as he spoke to Marie. He told her about the call he received from Elaine and his reaction. He talked about how lucky he felt that Mama hadn't decided he was her target and how bad he felt for what happened to us. Bill and his wife would fly to Vermont and be at the wedding. They had already booked their flight. Bill would come to help Elaine pack in the morning. He said some supportive things to Marie and asked her to tell me, "Welcome back." By 10, we were getting ready for bed. Marie did her normal routine right up to the part where she put on her nightgown. She held it in her hands and then hung it on the back of the door. She faced me and opened her arms. "Like what you see?" she asked. I smiled and said, "Yes. Let's go to bed." We were intentionally noisy even though no one else was in the house. The alarm woke us at 6. I got up and headed for the shower. Marie didn't need to get up that early, but when I was in the shower, she joined me. We played as we got clean and laughed. As I dressed, she made me breakfast. She made French toast and put a jar of peanut butter on the table by my plate. I sat to eat fully dressed while she sat with me and stayed comfortable. It was nice being home again and seeing how home was changing. Marie spent the day making phone calls and sending emails to all the people who had been invited to the wedding. She greeted Bill and Elaine when they came for Elaine's things. Elaine didn't even speak to Marie. It took Bill less than 90 minutes to get all of Elaine's things. Marie made a pitcher of lemonade, and Bill drank some while Marie continued making calls. She heard Elaine huff and grunt a few times, but assumed they were just noises, and didn't react. A few of the invited guests made reservations to fly to Vermont. Many did not. For those who asked, Marie told the truth about why the wedding was moved. Our flight to Vermont left at 4 on Friday afternoon. It was after midnight when we arrived in Vermont, and after 3 o'clock by the time we got into our hotel room and bed. We were still a little tired when we got to the church at noon. I was in a small room helping get things ready for the ceremony when Bill burst in and said, "You are not going to believe who's here." "Okay, who is it?" I asked. He grabbed my arm and led me to the door leading into the front of the chapel. I peeked through the small opening and almost gasped. Sitting in the front row, by the bride's side, was Elaine, dressed in a nice lavender outfit, and smiling broadly. "Does Christine or Marie know she's here?" I asked. Bill replied, "Since you and I are the only ones out here who know who she is, I don't think so." We went back to the room where Marie and Christine were getting ready. I knocked and Marie opened the door. "I need to talk to both of you right now. It's urgent." "Okay, come in," Marie said, opening the door. I saw Christine as a bride for the first time. She was radiant and beautiful. Marie looked beautiful too, though her dress was more subdued. "Marie, please sit for a moment," I said. She sat next to Christine. "Elaine is sitting in the front row by the bride's side," I continued. Marie jumped up and said, "No way." "Yes, Bill saw her come in. Neither of us has spoken to her, but we both saw her." "I'll be right back," Marie said as she left the room. Christine looked at me and asked, "What does it mean?" "I think it means your grandmother decided she loves you and your mom more than she values being right. Marie is finding the answer to that question right now." "Do I look good enough to marry Daddy?" Christine asked. "You are the second most beautiful bride I've ever seen," I replied. We hugged. A knock came at the door. I opened it a crack and saw Adam standing there. "Dad, I came to apologize to Christine, but since you're here, may I apologize to both of you?" I opened the door and they embraced. Adam apologized for not believing Marie and Christine and for his previous actions. Marie returned, and she was included in the hugs, tears, and apologies. I asked Adam, "Less than a week ago, you said you'd never see your mom again. What changed?" "Grandma called me and told me what she had done. She asked me to forgive her and forgive you. She asked me to help her get here." A man I had known for less than a day stood in the doorway and said, "I've got a chapel full of people waiting for a wedding. Can we start the music?" The women hurried for 30 seconds and then said, "Start the music." An hour later, Christine and Matt were married. Marie and I were married as well. I had the honor of walking Christine down the aisle and marrying Marie. During the reception, I danced with Christine first and then with Marie. Later, Elaine came to me and said, "I think it's customary for the groom to dance with the mother of the bride. I missed out on that some years ago because I was foolish. If you're willing to let me apologize for being a fool, I'd like to rectify that now." At the end of the dance, Elaine kissed me on the cheek and tears ran down her cheeks. "Thank God for waterproof mascara," she said. "Oh, are you going to get some?" I asked, smiling. The look on her face was horrified. I smiled again, and she realized I was joking. We both laughed. She put her arm around me, and I put my arm around her as we walked off the dance floor. If this were a fairy tale, it would end with they lived happily ever after. This isn't a fairy tale. There have been times when Elaine's controlling nature from over 60 years has motivated her to try to run things her way. There have been times when Marie has felt the urge to step into her mother's role in Adam and Christine's lives. I have stepped into it a few times as well and likely will again. All that said, they did live happily ever after so far. Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed it, Please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.